Hey, good day, everyone, and welcome to Critical Faculty. Today, we are going to be going a little bit away from philosophy and cosmology and all these complicated things. And we are going to be looking at a journey of a couple, but not your usual couple. It's a mother and daughter, and their journey and the struggle with faith and the aftermath of leaving that particular faith. Please join me in welcoming Stacie and Dee. Hello, Stacie.
Hello.
Hello, Dee.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm very excited. I've been watching your stuff for quite some
Aw.
time, and this is fantastic for a mother and daughter to have that little venture going and showing the dynamic because family plays a very important role sometimes
Oh,
in the struggle of leaving religion or having to stay put because it's of alienation and things like that.
absolutely.
Mhm. Yeah.
Stacie, I want to start with you. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having us. Yeah, like I said, we're very happy to be here. I'm Stacie, and I also hi David.
Hi,
Um,
David.
I go by the username online apostasy. I think it's very clever. I'm very proud of the name that I came up with. Um, and I have been a co host on the network Skeptic Haven for almost a year now. I host a show every Wednesday night called Secular Soapbox, and we've had the privilege of having some wonderful guests come on. We've had Aaron Raw, Seth Andrews, Derek Lambert, Jimmy Snow, just to name a few, Owen from Telltale Atheist. The list goes on and on. So I've gotten to know so many people in this community. And from there, I've been asked to be on so many people's shows, which has been just incredible. And the line has also asked me to come on their channel a couple times, and they have helped us kind of kickstart our own show called the Stacie's Mom Podcast, because that's something that we funny enough, I mean, it just happens to be my name, and I've just happened to deconvert with my mom. And we've been talking about doing our own podcast for about a year now. And I had that in my bio on YouTube, kind of a stay tuned. We don't really know when that's going to be happening. And when Jimmy had me on Hostility about a month ago, he saw that and said, you know what, this needs to happen. There hasn't been a mother daughter deconstruction podcast, and this needs to be a thing. And so the line has just really helped us get that going. And we are so excited to finally be doing this together. And we've done 3, including our intro. And we've been just thinking up ideas, and we're so excited for what we're doing. And so with kind of talking about our story and our own deconversion, and we have so much that we can talk about with that. We're also going to be having people come on that have deconverted together. So I've already asked a few people that have deconverted like with their spouse, because I don't know how a lot of people who maybe have deconverted with family members. So I've been thinking of, okay, who do I know that maybe has deconverted with their spouse? And so I've asked a couple people. I've asked David from Deep Drinks. I've asked Derek Lambert from Myth Vision, and a couple people from Instagram, Heretical Theology. So there's a couple of things we have in the works, but it's going to be, I think, a really great project that we have going. We're going to also feature, like, we have someone, you can see Liberation from the Jehovah's Witnesses. That's a friend of ours. And she just has a fantastic story. We got connected just because we both left high control religion. So that's a bit about us and what we're doing. Um, yeah. Uh,
This looks
Mummy?
fantastic. This looks
I call
amazing.
my mom Mummy. So when I
Yeah.
refer to her
Yeah.
as Mummy, What
Yep.
how about you?
So I'm Stacie's mom, me. And actually, when she writes my name, Mummy, she writes it with an IE because I spell her name with an IE. So that's our little
So it
thing.
matches like
Yep. Yep. So I'm Dee. We have been talking about this for about a year. Actually, I've been pushing her to start her own channel. I keep saying, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And we ended up having so many conversations just sitting in the kitchen. And our conversations would be so animated and so fun and just so intriguing that one day I said, you know what? People would love to hear the way we speak and the things we talk about. If we had a camera sitting here right now, people would listen. And we're not only fun and funny and interesting, but we're also sometimes it can be sad, and people would like to see that it's not perfect. It's not always great. We have gone through a lot of pain. It's not always wonderful deconverting. There have been things that have happened that haven't been fun. Yes, we're living our best life now, and it's been not always great. And there are some things that we will talk about. I don't know when, but there are things that we're going through together. And we've gone through a lot of things together in our life that Stacie and I have been each other's backbone. And we're still having to do that. This has been wonderful, and we are having a lot of fun, but there are still a lot of tears. There still has been some loss. So we're grateful to have one another to go through this. And I know there are a lot of people that lose their close family members when they go through this.
Mm.
We don't take that for granted. We really don't. But it has not been without pain, and it has not been without tears, and there has been some loss. So we're just grateful that we have one another, and we really don't take it for granted. So it's
yeah.
fun. We're having a great
It's fun
time.
to be able to do this together. And one of the things that I think we said it in our intro, or at least we did like 3 different intros before we put it
Yeah.
out because we just wanted to perfect it. It still
We do
wasn't
better
perfect.
live. We
We
decided we
really
do
do.
better live
I
because we
think
just
so.
like,
Same here.
yeah.
Way better. We record it, we're like, "Okay, that sucked. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah, we're
try it
too
again."
stiff. Let's just go
Especially
live.
after a few spirits,
Yeah.
few drinks will
We
actually
have
make
This is
a
the
big
wine.
first
help.
this is the first time.
Uh, uh,
Literally, this is the
Yeah.
I'm
first
having a
time.
drink. I know you said
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got
Oh,
good.
one drink.
perfect.
Cheers.
Sorry,
Cheers.
David. We're taking your deep drinks and bringing
I'm
it over
having a
to
vodka cranberry and sort of midday. It's here, but
Sauvignon
that's all
Blanc.
right.
I think it's
perfect.
from, where's this from? Australia, it might be.
They might be,
Anyway,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh
But
yeah.
one of the things that I was thinking about when we were starting to sort of just think of ideas for our channel and how I wanted it to come across is we want people to feel like they're actually sitting and talking with us because
Mhm.
we don't want it to just be like, okay, we're talking to you or we're just having a conversation with each other. We want people to feel like if they don't have someone that they can deconstruct with, or they don't have someone that they can talk about these things with, they can essentially, I want them to feel like they can turn to us and have that support the way that we've had the support with each other. So, yes, it's a mother-daughter deconversion or deconstruction podcast, but know that we want to be there for you in
Because
some
we've
way.
always been that
And
way.
we
Even when
have.
we were in the church, we've been that way with people.
I
Yeah.
mean, that is
So,
let's not let's face it. One of the strongest points of religion is the sense of community, and that's how they
Yeah.
keep you. So one of the things that is very attractive or even
Is how they
repulsive
keep you.
for people not leaving religion, because some people might actually have lost their faith, but the sense of community will actually say, you know
yeah.
what, I'm going to lose so much if I
It's not
do
worth
that.
it.
I'm just going to stick around for the community, or
Exactly.
the threat of having to lose the loved ones on the back of leaving. So maybe this is one going to be a nice segue to get into some of your stories, because that is a very, especially in Christianity, that's a
Yeah,
very, very strong element.
absolutely.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's important to us to just feel the way that when I came out as an atheist, and I mean, I have all these friends. Yes, they're all online, but and I hope to meet a lot of them one day, but I've never felt like I've had like I feel like I have people I can turn to at any time and just be like, "Hey guys, I need to talk to you about this," and they're there in
Yep.
an instant, and I could talk to them. So I want to be able to be that way for other people, and I've had people reach out to me. I had someone just this week say, message me. I don't know them, but they said, "I just found." Your episode on the Graceful Atheist podcast. That's an audio only podcast. And this person said, I basically cried my way through the entire episode because everything you said I connected with. And I'm like, okay, that's exactly why I do this and I want to share my story, because if someone's feeling alone, they need to know that they're not
They're
alone.
not.
And so us doing this together is just another way of being like, hey, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you need someone like kind of like a fill-in mom in a way, like,
And a
hey, she's
sister.
here. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of just how we feel.
And I'm
So
going to say something, and I want to direct the conversation towards Dee here, because one of the
Okay.
things religions take monopoly on things that actually never belong to religion in the first place. They're human things like
Yes.
sense of community, sense of elation, feeling something that's bigger than ourselves, and it does not have to be supernatural. The monopoly of religion has taken these for quite some time. Atheists or non-religious people are like almost herding cats because of the uniqueness that comes with you untethering and you being individual. We end up being scattered and we lose sense of community. But we can draw back on the very human basis that
Yes.
was stolen by religion, that we
Yes.
don't need religion to feel friendship and camaraderie and love and companionship and all these things that religions stole from
Takes
humanity.
credit for.
What do you think about that, Dee?
I absolutely 100% agree. I felt more alone in the church, sitting in a church pew or chair, than I feel now in a town where I have fewer friends in the physical here in town than I've ever felt before. I'm living in a town where I used to attend church when my children were small, and physically I knew more people, and I felt the most alone.
Mhm.
And now I'm the happiest I've ever been, living in the exact same town, completely cut off from all those same people. And I feel happier, more joy, more fulfilled, and more connected. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And i- it's so wonderful to not feel like I always have to, um, I don't know how to put it, but to always feel pretend. Pretend.
Yeah.
That's it.
yeah.
That's the only word I
Yeah,
can
that is no
say.
other word. Yeah. Be
Pretend.
someone else. Yeah.
Just pretend. Yeah, just put on this fake
Facade.
Pollyanna. Yeah, just
Yeah.
everything's great. Everything's wonderful
Everything's
when it
good.
wasn't.
Praise God.
There were times in this town when I had a 3-year-old and a newborn baby and my life was falling apart. And someone would say to me at church, "So how are you?" And I would literally dissolve into tears and go to the bathroom and cry because I was absolutely miserable. They didn't care how I was.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
didn't care. And they wouldn't even have known what to do if I'd have told them how I really was.
Mhm.
It would have been, read your Bible. I'll pray for you. That was the answer that pissed me off the most, was I'll pray for you. Your prayers mean nothing. There were times when I barely had food in my fridge to feed my children and your prayers mean squat, you know?
I'm gonna just ask you a question here, and I want to involve
Mhm.
Stacie as well. Prayer. Um, a good friend or a good mother or like a really good friend need not to be asked to do anything. You look at your friend or you look at your daughter or son, and you know exactly what's wrong, and you be
Yep.
approaching them to help them. For an omniscient God who understands what goes inside your mind, for it to go on your knees and ask verbatim with words and begging, it makes it really strange for me. Why would an omniscient God who can, well, I'm sure he's able of telepathy then, he'd be able to
Yeah.
read your mind. Why is he waiting for you to utter these words? And it
Yep.
has to be in a certain way. Cannot just be random, organic type of prayer.
Yep. Yep. No, I don't
What,
know.
what do you reckon, Stacie?
Well,
Do you
There is
have
no answer.
I remember hearing just that, even though God knows what you need, you still have to ask. And I was like, okay. I mean, everything made sense when you're in it because you
Not
find
to
a way
me.
for it to make sense. I know.
Okay,
But
you saw me do though, didn't you, Stacie? You saw
oh
me do.
yeah,
I didn't ask
100%.
questions. I didn't ask people what they needed. I just saw the need and
Yeah.
filled it,
Yeah.
even when I couldn't afford it. I just was so tired of, I'll pray for you.
My only explanation, this would only make sense in the format of people being in leadership, and we are creatures of habits. Having an attitude or a task that is reinforced and repeated ensure that you are within the fold. That fake renewal. You don't go to science, and there are no scientific communities where they go reinforcing the laws of quantum mechanics every Sunday. They don't keep
Yeah.
repeating that amongst themselves, holding hands and making
Yes.
sure re-emphasizing their belief in our quantum mechanics.
Doesn't Dan Barker, he says that in one of his books.
Yeah, Dan Barker. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's going to be on my channel in a couple of weeks now. I love Dan Barker. He's a lovely man.
Yeah, he's great, but he has something like that where he
Yes.
he gets a good image of scientists all holding hands like, "We believe in gravity. Thank you." Like singing a song about gravity or something like that. And I just
Before I
I
get out
laughed
of bed,
so
let's
hard
make
when I
sure
read
my
that.
head doesn't hit the ceiling.
Yeah.
Oh.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
probably the only explanation. It's that, and you can see it in all religions. So Muslims have to pray 5 times a day. Imagine that, 5 times a day.
Yeah.
And I've heard, according to Muhammad, he went to heaven, and the initial number was 50 prayers a day. And
Wow.
Oh my
this is when
gosh.
he ascended to the 7th heaven, and he was talking to God. So he said that's 50 prayers a day. Basically, you end up doing nothing. 50 prayers, it's a
That's
lot.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, on his way down, he met Moses. And it had to be obviously a Jew, because Jews are very good with striking deals. And
Yeah.
Moses said, "No, that's not going to fly. Go back and haggle with God." Actually, and he went to like
Wow.
40, 30, all the way to 5. It's exactly
my
like that.
God.
Moses every time meets with them and say, "No, that's too much. Go back." It
Oh
is
my
so funny. It's
goodness.
almost like being in a market.
Oh my gosh.
Incredible. That's
Wow.
hilarious.
Oh, it's so funny. But people, they just say that people will actually trying to explain this away and say, "Oh, look how wonderful our prophet is. He felt our pain, and God did it on purpose."
Haggled with
show-
God.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
did Jacob wrestle with God?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And became Israel. This
Yeah.
is funny stories, really funny stories. Okay,
Goodness.
so I won't start now. Obviously, I'm going to bring this a little bit back into science. I'm going to
Okay.
follow the chain of causality, because without D, it was very difficult for Stacie to exist. So I'm going to have to start with D.
Yeah.
And I needed
Yeah.
no help whatsoever. I did it all on my own.
You've mentioned that you have left for quite some time, but you kept it under wraps. So
Yeah.
first tell me about what denomination of Christianity were you, and when did the penny drop?
Okay. Well, we prided ourselves in calling ourselves non-denominational.
Right.
And technically, though, we had Pentecostal roots. So I don't understand why we called ourselves non-denominational when we were definitely
Because
Pentecostal
that's
Assemblies of
still a
Canada.
denomination, I feel.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Sounds
when we
neutral.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
we couldn't find a good non-denominational, the backup was PAOC, Pentecostal Association of Canada. Stacie was dedicated in a Pentecostal church as a baby. So Holy Rollers is also how we were known. So I was brought up in crazy Christianity, what we call now we call them fundies, fundamentalist, anything goes. I mean, literally anything. A guy could come along and say, I have the ministry of, I'll lay hands on you and you bark like a dog. Okay, cool. That shows that we've been touched by the Holy Spirit. I'm not kidding you. This is
Mm.
for real.
She's not kidding.
Yeah. Someone could come along and say, I have the ministry of, I'll lay hands on you and you get a gold tooth. It doesn't, you don't even have to have it backed up by, okay, prove you didn't have a gold tooth before your hands were laid on you. People, it's all crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So my mother, in the early 70s, very early 70s, I'm going to say probably either 1969 or 1970. She knows the exact date of her birth date. She calls it her birth date. She knows the exact date that she got saved. She went across the British Columbia border into Washington State for a weekend at a Jesus People. This keeps turning down, Stacie, without me touching it. So that's why I keep
Just
touching
turn it
it.
down a little bit more. Don't want it to be too loud. Yeah.
Yeah. How's that?
There you go.
Is that good?
That's good. Yeah.
Okay. It just keeps going down, down, down without me touching it. Anyway,
Yeah.
she went down to Washington State for a weekend retreat at a Jesus People hippie commune and came back saved. So after that, we spent all of our free time and weekends at tent meetings, revivals, whoever the flavor of the week was that was coming through town, and set up a tent. We were at late at night, all day. She would take jobs cooking at like
The camps.
the camps.
Right? Like
Yeah, thank you.
Christian
Yeah,
camps.
Christian camps. Yeah. And so I remember being left sometimes with people I didn't even know while she'd go cook at week-long camp meetings, and she just was all in. And so that's how my childhood was. But also there was times where she would backslide. So she went back and forth between what we would call, okay, some people listening might understand that we call on fire for God or backslidden. So she'd go between I'm on fire for God or I'm backslidden, on fire for God or backslidden. It was just my childhood is really tumultuous. It really, and so I just spent my childhood watching my mom be one or the other, one or the other. She always had the belief, she never wavered from the belief that Jesus was the Son of God. He died for sins. He rose from the dead. She spoke in tongues, all of that. But her walk with the Lord and going to church was not always consistent. There were times where it wavered. There were times where she would stick us on a Sunday school bus and send us to church, but she didn't necessarily go. There were times where she went all the time. It was very inconsistent, but her beliefs remained. If you said to her, what does this mean? And she would give you she could tell you the Bible from front to back, everything. And she had concordances. She had that book, Kingdom of the Cults, on her. I grew up with that book, Kingdom of the Cults, on her bookshelf. My mom was very well read, very well self-educated in Christianity, her version of Christianity. Meanwhile, we were very transient. We were all over the place. She was fleeing from an abusive relationship. It was just all over the map. We were all over the map. Just picture Jesus people, hippie type. At one point, she took us and we lived in a very small town in rural Alberta where the whole house was just Jesus people, and my brother and my sister and I were the only children in the house. And it was just Jesus people, prayer meetings 24 hours a day. I was lucky if we got a full night's sleep. It was just crazy town. So that's how I was raised. And I just remember a lot of craziness. So, yeah.
Wow.
A lot of what my so-called faith was just fear-based, fear of hell, because hell was very explicitly explained to me, very explicitly from a very young age. And
Sorry, and your
I
belief
remember,
system was about a physical hell, not
yes,
a
oh,
psychological
absolutely.
torment. So we're
No,
talking about the
absolutely. And I
hellfire.
remember one time, I don't think I've ever told Stacie this story, but I remember one time when we lived in that small town in rural Alberta, they had one night where everybody brought all the stuff in the house that they thought had demons in it. And they had a ceremony outside in the back door where they burned it all. And everybody swore they heard the demons screaming as it was being burned. Um, does
Wow.
anyone remember the split cross symbol? Like some people wore that necklace that was a split cross. And I remember one of the young women in the 70s had a big wooden split cross, and she'd wear it down in her cleavage. And someone told her, that's demonic. You can't wear that. That's blasphemy of the cross symbol. The cross now I look at as a murder weapon, literally. Like it was a murder weapon.
Yeah.
So they took that cross outside, and I remember standing in the kitchen and watching the adults in the winter, in Alberta winter, burning this cross, and everyone swearing. They heard the demons screaming as they burned this cross. I'm grade 3, okay? Like, what am I, 9? And standing in this kitchen shivering from the cold because it's like minus 40 Fahrenheit. The kitchen doors open and they're burning this stuff outside, and I'm like, oh my God, what, like this is the stuff I grew up with. This is the middle of the night, and I'm standing with a blanket wrapped around me as these
Oh my
adults
gosh, yeah.
who are supposed to be the people looking after me. Decisions were made in this house like this. I probably will do this, Stacie. This is how decisions in the house were made. Someone would think, I think I want to drive to Edmonton this weekend. Can everybody pray and get a yes or a no? So they would take the consensus in the house. I get a yes. Oh, I get a no. I get a no. I get a no. Okay, I guess I won't go. The no's have it.
Oh my gosh.
This is how
No, you never
blood
told me that.
decisions were made in the house. Like,
This is crazy. You know what?
it
What I'm going to
was
do is
insane.
what I'm going to do instead of listening to the entire story of one person, I'm going to go to Stacie
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
contrast her upbringing, like so at the same time as she was being brought up, and obviously
Yeah.
you're going to be mother in this case. What's her experience was, and we're going to go back to you, Dee. Go to the next
Sure.
chapter
Do
and
it,
contrast
Stace.
it with the same chapter.
I
of
need a
Stacie.
sip of water.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, what would you like to know? Where would you like me to start?
So obviously we'll be in a very same sort of era or
Yeah.
time. As a child, what was the household like? What the beliefs were like, and
Yeah.
whether you have become an individual and you split from the beliefs of the family and you've had your own separate path. Because I believe you went a little bit with the religion a little bit too much yourself.
Yeah. So my upbringing was, I mean, the beginning part was a lot the same as my mom as far as what we believe. Like the church services were very like we spoke in tongues. there was a lot of being slain in the spirit. People were, like laughing and making weird sounds. And so that was very normal to me. And I was told that that was evidence that Jesus was there. The Holy Spirit was working. This was just people acting very normal. So I was like, oh, okay. So this is God working right now. We were told to expect the presence of the Lord, and this was him or the Holy Spirit manifesting. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. We're in the presence of God right now. So I grew up thinking this was amazing. And I kind of I thought it was great and I liked it. Um, I also thought it was very strange, but I felt bad if I thought it was strange because I felt like I was sinning for thinking, okay, this is a little weird. Um, so, because you're not supposed to think it's wrong, right?
Exactly.
Um, and
Probably our thoughts are involuntary. They rush,
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah,
rush into your
exactly,
head.
yeah, and but so I was the type of person where I was told, okay, so Jesus was a real person. He died on the cross for your sins. He rose on the third day. He's coming back. We're all going to be reunited in heaven. This is the way it is. And I was like, okay, I believe you. I had no reason to question anyone in authority because I'm not someone who uh, at the time really doubted. I didn't think people were going to lie to me. I trusted the people in my life. I thought this is a great story, and if Jesus loves me, well then great. I love him too. And it just sounded okay, we're going to go to heaven. Um and again, my grandma had a really big influence over my spiritual life from a very young age. And some of I remember one time when I was like 2 or 3 years old being at her house, and she's reading me the story from, I mean, I'm gonna probably get this wrong, but is it Exodus when, I think it was Exodus, where they had to paint the blood over the doorpost so that
Oh,
the children,
the
Passover.
yeah,
Passover
the
feast.
Passover.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I was like 3 years old, and she's like, "Isn't it amazing? Like they're painting the blood so that the angel of death doesn't
A
come." And I was
horrible
just like,
story.
"Oh, okay."
You killed my
But
people.
yeah. So I remember the images of that very vividly in my head as like 3 years old, and just being like, "Oh, okay." Um, so you don't really question it as a kid. So when you're told it, like when you're being read that and you're being read nursery rhymes at the same time, being told this is real, I was like, okay, I'll trust you. Um, and then when I was 5 years old, my grandma, I'm not joking, right before bed,
No.
this is a vivid memory. I am not lying when I tell you this was right before bed at a sleepover at her house. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Carmen. He was he's a singer, but he's also like, he would kind of do like, what would you call it, mommy? Like
Dramatizations.
dramatizations
Well, they're music
to
videos, but
music. Yeah.
yeah.
And he would tell these stories, and he would yeah, he would be acting them out, but to music. And there was one video that he did called Revival in the Land. And she showed it to me, and it was basically a demon going back down to hell to talk to Satan, to give like a report on all the horrible things that the demons have been doing on earth. And oh, we've committed this many murders, we've committed this many abortions, there's been this many drunk driving accidents, and Satan's like,
If I had
okay, good,
known,
okay, good.
my
I know.
gosh.
And then he's like, but the Christians keep praying. And then the end of the video is like, the Christians are getting louder and praying, and then Satan's like, no. And then the song is Revival in the Land, and Satan and the demons are like, oh, and then the Christians are singing and they're triumphing. But the imagery is very scary when you're
It's
5 and you're
hell.
seeing this. It's like in
You're
hell.
in
And she's like,
hell.
isn't, and so I watched this, and I can't even watch it now when if you go on YouTube and just search Carmen Revival in the Land, it's like,
I'm aware of it.
It's
yeah.
it's
creepy.
funny.
It's
I
not for
laugh
a
now watching it. It's
5-year-old.
funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like if you were to see it now and you had never seen it before, you'd be like, okay, this is so dumb. But when you're 5,
5
Yeah.
I
Oh
was
yeah.
at
like,
bedtime.
and I just remember laying in bed and I thought of that every single night, like, oh my God, this is so terrifying.
Basically, this is
So,
child abuse. What you've
oh,
suffered is child
totally.
abuse.
Totally.
And you didn't
So
even tell me.
no, she showed me that and she showed me another one by Carmen called Witch's Invitation, where he goes to a witch's home. And that one freaked me out so much. So I had just these vivid images of like witches are real and I don't know. Sorry. Got it. Um anyways, so that is what I grew up with, just believing in a very literal hell and all that. Um, so, but after that, I basically just kept just going to church and indoctrinating myself
Being perfect.
because my mom, like, she didn't force any of these beliefs on me, I have to say. Like, there were times where we didn't go to church and stuff, but then I would get this, like, very overwhelming feeling of, "Oh my god, we need to go to church, otherwise we're going to hell." And she'd be like, "Okay, okay, fine, we'll go to
'Cause I didn't
church."
wanna go to
And
church.
yeah, but I just felt like there was no other option. I had such a strong belief, and that's what kept me in and essentially her in because we were really close and I was the only other person that she could talk to. I think now that we've been talking about this
Yeah.
openly for the last little while, um, yeah, I was the one who really like if she couldn't really open up to anyone and I was a really strong Christian who believed all of it. I converted from Pentecostal to Calvinism
Which
on
that
my
was
way
fun.
out. Yeah. But she made it very clear like that I kind of just jumped from like 5 years old um but I was really just wanting to know theology and I wanted to study the Bible. I wanted to know the right, proper way. Like, I wanted to know God completely. And I kind of dragged my mom along for the ride for as long as
Calvinism.
possible.
Kicking and
How did you
screaming.
get
And
how did you get around predestination?
I just, I, you know what? If you find enough verses for it, it
You
seems
can cherry pick
plausible.
anything you want out of there.
Why?
It really did seem like, okay, I could see that. I
They even
could
talked
see
her
that.
into
Like,
baptizing her babies, like,
But
so
you know, Calvinism, it doesn't matter what you do. It's not even your faith or anything you're saved by.
yeah.
I know.
The number of people who are going to be entering God's heaven has been predetermined. You are
I
just
know.
an extra
What the
in a movie.
hell? Like, how do they what the hell? Ho right?
You just, by the
Yeah.
grace of God, you just hope that you are one of the.
There's no grace. Like, there's no
Oh my!
grace.
Oh, it makes God. I mean, what is the difference here between God and Satan? I mean, like at that point, there is
Yeah.
no justice, nothing. You could be a person who is very charitable, does all the right thing in life, and still be doomed because
Mother Teresa.
you can even accept Jesus and still be doomed because
Yep.
you have not been pre-chosen and pre-selected by
Yeah.
God. That is insane.
Yep.
Well, I'm living proof of that. So,
Yeah. Yep.
like, according to them,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
I did what when I did find Calvinism, it was on my like that was the beginning of my deconstruction because I questioned what are you thinking? I see
I'm
a
laughing
laugh
about
on
how
your
you're like,
face.
do you want to come? Do you want to join? I'm like,
Oh yeah, that's where
no.
I'm getting to. That's what I'm getting to. I was getting to that because okay, you
I know.
'cause
I'm sorry. I know the story. I'll be quiet.
I know she knows the
I'll
story,
drink wine.
but no, when I started questioning a lot of things about like Pentecostalism and charismatic and just everything about that sort of church and theology. And I was really searching, and like there were so many questions about it, and I was starting to pick at it. And then I came across Calvinism, and I was like, okay, it was answering questions as far as like, is speaking in tongues still biblical? And Calvinism answered basically no. And I'm like, okay, I've always kind of thought that. So it answered that question for me. So I felt like I'm getting some answers. Um, I dealt with anxiety, and I was
Yeah.
always told, okay, spiritual warfare, we need spiritual warfare. And Calvinism was like, there's no spiritual warfare is rubbish. And so I was like, okay, well, that answers a question for me. So I was feeling like I was getting some major answers, and Calvinism seemed to kind of fit into that sort of answer category. And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess this is just where I need to be. Like I need to be in a Calvinist church. And so um I I joined a Calvinist church, and my mom was like, I'm not joining a Calvinist church. Like you can join a Calvinist church, but I'm not joining
How
one. I was like,
old were
that's
you,
fine. Like
Stacie, then? What age were you?
th-
Uh,
This is a couple years ago.
this
oh,
was
you,
not that long.
you're joking. It was only a couple of years ago. My
This was 4
goodness.
years. This was 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
4 years ago, I joined the Calvinist church. And thank you for that comment.
Yeah. Thank you.
Very nice. I don't like to ignore comments when they get put up.
No.
So thank you so
Yeah.
much. And she was just like, okay, you can do that, but I'm not joining. And I kept saying, like, no matter what I do, I don't want you to feel like you have to just follow me, because I don't want to pressure you just because I'm feeling this way. So I'm glad you didn't. I'm really glad you didn't.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
just saying that now. Yeah. And but we felt a lot of pressure from the church to join. So I'll just say that we were pressured from the church.
They suck.
Yeah. And
Sorry, did I say that out? That was my outside voice, not my inside voice.
yeah. So
It's like one of those things where he puts you on a bus. You're not allowed to leave the bus until you buy a holiday of some sort.
Yeah.
No, exactly. But I have to say, like, even though I'm a newly deconverted person, my deconstruction began long before I finally just was like, okay, I'm out.
That's
Because
true.
coming out of just even Pentecostal, that's when my deconstruction began. And
You just didn't know it.
even if I back it up before then, I started questioning just even the music choices. I started just throwing out like just
Actually,
even the
my
music,
mom started it by making you
Yeah.
question Hillsong.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
So yeah, because she was like, you shouldn't be listening to Hillsong. And I was like, okay, well, give me something to look into that. So I mean, if we really want to put it on someone,
Yeah, it's
Just
mama.
So I started really questioning even just the churches that I was at, like Pentecostal churches in probably 2018. And it just, the ball started rolling because I was looking into a lot of it and deep diving. And, like the path was kind of like it wasn't straight. It was very
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm going this way. And eventually I found my way out because I was just so curious and so much making sense.
Yeah. Stacie,
but
I'll just
You
ask you
broke up there.
one question before I go back to Dee.
yeah.
So at this
Sorry.
point,
Yeah.
no, it's okay.
No, don't be sorry.
It's
Yeah.
because we're talking about a common story. All of this is happening not in isolation of Dee. That she's always been around your development. So
Yeah.
it's almost it's an interesting story because you guys
It's
are involved in
intertwined
every
for
step of the
sure.
way. But you obviously were married, and I understand that you keep bragging about your husband.
Yeah.
You love your
Brag
husband.
worthy. Oh yeah.
Uh,
You can't
and
brag
three
enough.
and three boys. Is that
Yes,
right?
3
Yes.
boys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Now, with this happening in the background, if you got your own family as well, was he with you on that journey, or did he have a different opinion on the matter? And what about the children? Have you sort of kept them away from all this saga for now until they're grown up?
Um, so okay, so I th- okay, what happened is I probably would have deconverted about 4 years ago, to be honest. Um, but where we were living at the time, I remember vividly like this one day in my kitchen. Everything happens in the kitchen, I find. Like we have these
Yeah.
epiphanies, me and my mom in the kitchen. But I was in my kitchen and I was all alone and I was just like, this does not make sense. None of this makes sense. But where we were at the time, my kids were in Christian school, and all my friends were from the Christian school. My whole life was just built around Christianity and everything. And I was just like, well, what would I do? Where would we go? My kids' lives would just be like completely like in upheaval.
Shambles.
I have no idea. Like if I make this decision, I'm the kind of person that I would just be like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm out, which is exactly what I did. But I'm just like, I don't know. What could I do to my boys? And so I was like, well, I just need to build my faith because this is probably just an attack of the devil, is what we're told, right? Doubt is just an attack.
Yeah.
So I started just listening to more sermons and just basically indoctrinating myself. So I talked myself out of it and it's okay, gamey boy. It's
Yeah.
okay. I
Not
forgive
your
you.
fault.
Um yeah, it's fine. Um so I was just like, there's no way I can just rip their whole lives apart just because I have this realization. So I just ignored it. So, we ended up moving away. So we moved to the town that we're in now. We don't have any friends, nobody else here. We're alone. And that's when I completely deconverted. My kids were not in a Christian school. We have no friends here, which I kind of like. And that's when I started to just be like, okay, what do I believe? And I just pulled and pulled and pulled at that thread and it all just came unraveled and it was amazing. But my husband, um, he's we've been together 19 years this July and he has just been a super supportive husband from day one because he loves me so much and we've just gone to church together and he got baptized and became a member and he just kind of talked the talk and walked the walk and prayed with me and did all the stuff and then when I started kind of being like, hey, what do you think about this, he'd be like, well, uh yeah, I don't really think so. And then one day I cornered him about evolution because I was a young earth creationist because I never entertained the idea of evolution whatsoever. And I asked him, what do you think about creationist or creationism? And he was just, I said, do you think the earth is 6,000 years old? And he's like, no. And we're not telling our kids that. Like, there's just no way I would ever lie to our children. And I was like, okay. And so I told him I was really starting to doubt everything and it was kind of freaking me out, but I was also excited by it. He was just kind of like, he was just giving me like soft permission to just like, you know what, just go explore it.
He's
And I told
so
him
sweet.
I know, but he was like,
Yeah.
go ahead, but just, like take things slow. And he didn't want me to just dive in too much and then get freaked out and then be like, oh my God,
Yeah.
what did I just do? Right. And I told him I was so scared of just like doing this because what if I end up going to hell? And he never believed in hell. He was always afraid, what if there's a heaven and I don't get to go and you and the boys go and I'm stuck without you? And
Aw.
that was
See,
his biggest fear.
he's always been a non-believer almost, and he's just on the ride because of you. That's wonderful. This is
Yes.
what this is what real
Yes.
love can do. That's brilliant.
Yes. And so I told them, I'm just so scared of hell, Brian. You don't understand. I was like, you're so lucky you don't have that fear, but I have that fear. And so he told me this quote that he saw, and he's like, I don't know if this is going to help you, but I saw this quote that said, um, life is the spark between two identical voids, the one the one before birth and the one after death. And I just realized like I have no concept of what I did before I was born because there was no consciousness. And I think after I die, there's going to be no consciousness. And so as soon as he told me that, I was just like, Brian, there's nothing. Like, there's nothing. I don't think I need to be afraid anymore. And so as soon as he told me that, it was still probably about a month and a half I came to the before I actually came and told him I don't believe in God. That still took me a bit of time. And when I did tell him, I was really excited, but I was like, I have to tell you this and I have to just like see how these words feel. Because I feel this in really strong conviction, like I sinned, and am I going to feel guilty? And I said the words, I was like, I don't think I believe in God. And he was like, oh my God, okay. And then his words were, I don't think you're wrong, but just, like keep taking it slow, but I don't think you're wrong. And as I got so excited once I said it, I felt like this like brand new person. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I can live life.
You were
I
born
can, I,
again.
I can live life. And I was like, I'm not going back. Oh my gosh. Like I just had this like, wow, I don't have to be a Christian. I'm not a Christian. I don't believe. And it was amazing. And he was really proud of me because he's like, you know what? There was nobody influencing you. It's not like you got this like new friend that's an atheist that was like, hey, read this. Hey, read that. He's like, this was all you. There was nobody influencing you whatsoever. This was just you wanting to find the truth. And he's like, I'm just so proud of you. And
Aw.
I was like, thanks. So now he's just like, we have these really awesome conversations and our relationship, like we've always had a strong relationship. We've always been really close, but we've gotten so much closer. And I've just thanked him probably like 1,000 times. I'm like, you are the most patient person in the entire world because I was like, I mean, I'm a really nice person and I love him so much, but in certain conversations and certain situations, I was like, woo, out to lunch, right? And like I believed in the rapture. I didn't believe in climate change. I just thought really weird ideas because of what I was raised with. And he would just be like, okay, honey. And I just thanked him so much for just being so patient with me. And so, um, even with our kids,
It's a good
he
thing
didn't
she was
want to just.
hot.
Yeah. But and to answer the second part, as far as with our kids, we didn't like have this big announcement. We just kind of let it slowly, like we just stopped going to church.
Yeah.
We didn't make a big announcement like, hey, just so you know, like there's no God. We kind of let them naturally figure it out. Excuse
Mm-hmm.
me. And they asked to go to church one weekend because they were like, why aren't we going to church anymore? And we're just like, oh, because we're really busy. And then one Saturday night, our oldest came in our room before bed and he's like, Mommy and Daddy, we want to go to church tomorrow. Like, we really want to go. And I looked at Brian and he's like, I'll take them tomorrow. Like, I'll take them to church if they want to go. You can stay home with Luke. He's our youngest. He was 2 at the time. And I was like, okay, thank you. So he took the 2 older boys. And I was like, thank you so much, because I didn't want to go. And so he took the 2 older boys, and they came back from church. They didn't say a word about it. They never asked to go again. And that was the end of it. And then it was a few months later, they just started asking more questions. And then they were like, oh, what are your, I got asked to be on Secular Soapbox. And they were like, what's your podcast about, Mommy? And so I told them, and then the conversation started happening. And now they flat out know,
Yeah.
I don't believe.
Now
and
the
I-
oldest likes to, when we go to greeting card stores, he likes to pick up the most religious cards and say, here, Nana, here, look at this one. God bless you on your birthday. And
Yeah,
he just
he
does it
likes
just
to
to be
tease.
cheeky.
Wow, this is an incredible
It's
story.
hilarious.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they're, and I actually told them, because like we would drive by other churches before, like we'd drive by like Buddhist temples or Hindu temples, and they would be like, what's that building? And I'd be like, it's demonic. Like I was so
It's a bad
staunch, right?
church.
Yeah, I'd be like, it's a bad church. It's demonic. Never go there.
Now
And-
you're free to explore, because even
And-
though I'm an atheist, I
Yeah.
love these things. These are, we need
Oh,
them.
I
We're
actually
here-
would.
art.
I would go. Yes. And like even like yoga, I was like, we can never do yoga. Like I was really hardcore, right?
Yeah.
Really hardcore. And so I told them, like, I actually sat down at some point and said to them, you know what,
You
guys?
did.
Like,
I was so proud of you.
thanks. I said to them, I was like, you know what? Mommy was wrong about a lot of things. And I was wrong about telling you that these things were bad and these things were bad. I said, they're not. And I've learned that, you know, you can have your own beliefs. You don't have to believe what I believe. And I don't believe in there's a God, but hey, if you come
Mhm.
across something that you want to share with me, I'm not going to shut you down. So
Lovely.
just know, and I said, and if I tell you something, you don't have to believe it just because it's coming from me. So
Mhm.
if you find out different information, you can come back and be like, hey, Mommy, just so you know, this is what I found out. And I'll be like, oh, thanks for telling me. So I apologize to them for being so, like, I wanted them to think the way I thought, because I thought that's how you raise up a child and the way they should
Mhm.
go, so that for all
When they
their
are
life
old, they will not depart
they
from
won't
it.
depart, right? So I apologized to them, and it's just been really great, and we've been able to have open and honest conversations with them. And if they ever wanted to just be like, hey, can we go check out, like if we were to go on vacation, can we go to this temple to walk through it? I'd be like, yeah, sure, let's go.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't
sure.
be like, no, we have to plead the blood of Jesus. And
No. Seriously.
yeah, because I would have. So
Mhm.
it's just, oh, we also celebrated our first Halloween last year.
I was just
and
gonna
was a
say
lot of
that.
fun.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, you haven't been enjoying Halloween for all these years.
No,
She did a few
no.
times when she was a kid because I let them. Because remember, I was
Yeah.
a closet non-believer.
Yeah.
Wow. So you never
But-
got trick and treat and all that sort of lovely.
No. And one time my husband, like when I was at work one day, on a Saturday, like this was like 4 or 5 years ago, and like we would buy pumpkins. My mom's laughing at me already. We would buy pumpkins just to put on the doorstep for like fall decor. We wouldn't cut them, nothing. I just like the colors. And one day they cut their initials, Z for Zachary and H for Harrison. They just cut their initials. And when I got home, they're like, Mommy, we carved our initials in the pumpkin. And I felt like I was going to
She lost her
up.
shit.
I was like, nope, those are going in the garbage, because I thought even just cutting a pumpkin would allow demons into our home.
Yeah.
I haven't even touched on that. And
Graven,
so-
graven images.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, Brian, why would you even think to put a knife in a pumpkin?
Get the
And-
seeds out and roast them.
I was like, that's the only reason why you should ever think to cut a pumpkin
Oh, that's
is to
funny.
get the seeds out. And so the boys were like, but we just wanted our initial. And I was like, no. And I threw them in the garbage. And so they remember that. And so I apologized to them because I was like, you know what? Mommy was just so scared of
Psycho.
everything. And
Off air, I'm
and
going to send you the link to a couple of TV series, comedy, I love
yes.
English comedy, and they are talking about Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses, but
We have
in a
a
very
lot in
funny
common
way.
with the J-dubs, and we didn't
Oh yeah,
realize it.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, no way.
totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, we didn't know until we
Yeah.
talked to a few of them, and we're gonna have one on our show, one of our friends, Cassie.
You'll find that
Yeah.
extreme versions of religions have a lot in common. Even it
We
could be the
do.
extreme version of Islam. There will be
Except they were
certain
going to hell and we weren't, so there's
yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly. There's a Netflix series called Unorthodox by the
Oh,
Jewish.
Oh.
You got to watch this. It shows
okay.
you a certain sect within Judaism called the Hasidic Jews, the Orthodox Jews, and the
Okay.
way they
Okay.
treat women, and the way there's so many
Oh,
taboos, and this is not kosher, and they're so restrictive in the way they go about life. It's not funny. And this
well,
girl
we weren't.
wants to break free. It's an amazing story.
Oh,
Wow. I would,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd definitely be interested in that because
Yeah, I'll
I
send you a
had
couple.
myself so bound up,
wound up too, like
wound
just
up.
yeah, like it was
Yeah.
sad, and we can laugh now, but it wasn't funny
Funny
at
then.
the
Yeah.
time.
No,
Yeah.
it was very serious.
Yeah,
Like I do laugh now because I'm just like, oh my goodness. I'm
and we
I'm happy I can laugh, but
yeah, me too.
I'm really happy.
Sad.
Like
Yeah,
I'm not laughing at the misery, but I'm just like, wow.
yeah.
Wow.
Wow,
But
Brian
I
didn't
mean,
leave you.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
he was just like, okay, sure, we'll
Yeah.
throw them in the garbage.
Yeah.
I love you.
life is a series of coincidences. I mean, I left religion for a very young age, 18, and
Wow, you're
God
so
at the age of
lucky.
20. So I was so lucky because I was brought up in a household that would allow that and the
Oh,
right environment. But sometimes you're a slave to the circumstances and the things around you, and there's
yeah,
very little you can do. The only thing you can do now is, okay, that's behind me. That's the
yeah,
past, and now I'm
yeah,
looking forward to that
yeah.
future where you're liberated. You can explore life the way it should be, and that's fantastic. I want to go to Dee because the
Yeah.
story back to Dee. When the penny dropped, when did you think that all of this is baloney? It's not
When
real.
Stacie was about 5, but there was no way out for me at that point. She was about 5, and I just was in this bubble. I had, I'm reading his comment. Sorry.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah. I like him. Stacie was about 5, but honestly, there was no way for me to get out. My mother was a very strong, dominant person in my life, and that was it. She was controlling, and I didn't have any non-Christians in my life. I didn't have anyone I could really truly turn to. That's just the long and the short of it. And like Stacie said, I didn't push it on my kids. I didn't. And I also, uh, to be honest, I didn't see the harm in going to church. Um, I wasn't pushing it on my children. I also thought that it was okay to just be Christian. There wasn't anything seriously wrong about just being a good person.
Mhm.
And the crazy stuff, I just didn't participate in. I just sat back as a spectator. So when the people were like rolling around on the floor and being ridiculous, I stayed in my seat. So it's not like I was participating.
You never did.
So no, so I didn't see the harm in just taking my children to church, teaching them to be good, moral people, being kind, treating people with kindness. And I set a good example by being kind, generous, loving. I did all the good things. So I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, and I really didn't push all the wackadoodle crap on them.
No.
My son decided as a young teenager he didn't want to go to church anymore, and I didn't make him.
Right.
And when he was having a good time and Stacie was being hard on herself, I told her to try to have more fun and try to let things go and not be so hard on herself. I told her to try to be more like her brother. And when her brother would say to me, "I'm sorry, I'm not perfect like Stacie," I told him nobody was perfect like Stacie. I said Stacie
But I
was
was
the strange one. I know. And I would just say, nobody's like Stacie. Like, don't even try to be like Stacie. I don't even understand Stacie. I'm more like you. And apparently Stacie couldn't
meanwhile,
Stacie couldn't
my
understand why I was
brain
saying that.
but
Yeah.
meanwhile, my brain was just tormenting me
Yeah.
because I'd have
And
one bad thought and
and she'd think she was evil.
it would
So
Wow.
torment me
she'd be
for
coming to
weeks.
me. Yeah, she'd come to me and say, "Please pray with me. I had a bad thought. I don't want to tell you what it is, but please just pray with me." So I'd be like, "Okay, here we
But
go."
if this was a natural tendency, Christianity preys on that because
Yes.
Yeah.
it's the guilt. We're all
Yeah.
sinners. We're all,
Yeah.
we're all the offspring of the evil Jew that decided to eat from the forbidden
Yes.
fruit, and we're all fallen.
Oh, we lost
We're all-
Stacie somehow.
yeah,
She'll be
hopefully
back.
she'll join us soon. Yeah.
Do you know what I just realized though, and something that I probably should have told her brother was, you know what I just
Something
realized,
happened.
Stacie? You know what I
What?
just realized, Stacie? Something I never told your brother
Mhm.
was about that. I never told him you struggled with that. We kept that between us.
Mhm.
So he just thought you were just sailing through and you were fine. We kept those things because that was private. I didn't see
Yeah.
any need to. So he just thought you were sailing on through and you were just Miss Perfection. Meanwhile, he's dealing with whatever he was dealing with. But he
Yeah.
didn't come to me until things were like falling apart for him.
Yeah.
And he'd come and say,
You know what?
"Oh,
I think it's unhuman for it. I think the imperfection should be celebrated more than perfect. Perfection is boring. There's no such thing.
yeah,
Everybody's
no
trying
such
to show off
there's
facade that
no
everything
such
is okay.
freaking thing.
I know
No.
everyone, religious or non-religious, are going through shit in life, and you deal
Yes.
with it, and it's all right to
Oh my
that's
God.
how to be
And
alive.
that's
Yeah.
why Stacie and I wanted ultimately to share. We're going to share our story bit by bit. Like
Mhm.
if like the things that eventually will slowly, this is going to come out. Like we have 39 years of Stacie's story. I have 59 years of mine. We have story. Nothing is perfect. And the fact that we're here and sitting here now, I'm sorry, especially me, the fact I'm not dead and the fact that I can sit here and carry on a conversation is amazing.
Mhm.
I'm,
I think perfection is overrated there. If you
oh my
watch a
God.
movie or a song, it's all built upon the ups and downs of life, the drama. If That's why I think heaven must be one of the most boring places on.
I thought that. I was like, hell no, I don't want to go and worship some
Exactly.
weirdo sitting on a throne. Like, why would I want to do that for eternity?
It's
What?
crazy. Yeah. Be bored to hell.
I never knew that. She didn't
I
tell
know.
me that until like after all the stuff comes out after.
Yeah.
I
Well,
had no
because,
like
yeah, because so I literally used to go to her and be like, so, like when I was trying to come out to her a few times, like literally. So when you pray, do you actually like believe that your prayers will be answered? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like a couple years ago when I was still married to my husband, who's now my ex-husband, he's a really sweet guy and he's a Christian. And I wanted to go to him and he was the first one I wanted to really come out to because things were falling apart for us, and not our marriage, but our life was falling apart. And I was really trying to hang in there with him. And he just kept telling me, I think we should just go our own separate ways. I'd be okay. I'd be all right if we just went our own separate ways. Like financially, things were just collapsing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is what you do in a marriage. You stick together. You stick together through thick and thin. And he's like, no, it'd be all right if we just, and we were friends. Like we didn't hate each other. We're like, I'm like, what the fuck? So anyway, so finally one day I went to him and I said, look, I need to tell you something. I really don't think I didn't, I said, I really don't think, but I knew. I've known since Stacie was 5. I said, I don't think I really believe in God. And he's like, you can't say that. And I went, all right, okay. I was standing between the kitchen and the living room. And I said that.
See,
I
all the
remember it
things happen in the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah. That very kitchen where we had our conversation in the long weekend. Okay. So I'm like, okay. So I retreated back to the bedroom, just turn on Netflix. And I'm sitting there. I'm like, what am I going to do? Because you'd already started deconstructing after American Gospel. Okay. So I tried one more time before we ended up splitting up. One more time. I'm like, so are we gonna go to church together? We hadn't been going to church. I was trying to find a church that was doctrinally sound, Stacie. And then you told me you talked to that girl and she said, look, Stacie, tell your mom I've been there. There's no doctrinally sound churches. And you
Where
told
she
me, I'm like,
lived.
yeah. And I'm like, yes, I have an out. Like I don't have to worry about finding a church. But anyway, I said to him, I'm like, so are we going to find a church? And he's like, well, yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess we really should. And I was like, you know what? You don't really seem to be into finding a church to go to. So I'm just going to tell you something. I'm going to try this one more time. I don't really think I even believe in all this. And I said to him, and at the time I didn't curse at all unless I was really, really angry. And I said, I think it's all a bunch of horse shit and I don't believe it at all. And he's like, you can't say that. And I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm not even going to try this again. He's not going to hear
it
me.
would
He
have been a
doesn't want to hear
difficult.
this.
So you split up ever since. So Stacie
We
was 5
split
now.
up. We split up. We split up 2020, July of 2020. And
that's
it had nothing to do with that. It literally, I would have stayed with him. I would have stayed with him just because I was in a committed relationship. Like when I said my vows, I meant it no matter what. I would have stayed. It was his decision. And it wasn't because of that. It had nothing to do with that. It had nothing to do with that. I would have stayed and just stayed, but it had nothing to do with that. It was just, I'm so glad that we did. I'm happier now and we're still friends.
Yeah.
We end every text message and every phone call with love you
So
too.
these are the things that religion and societal pressures will put on you, that you should stick around in relationships, even though, because it's natural. Sometimes love fades away. You change a lot. You go in different directions, and before things get nasty, it splits. Yeah, and that. But people cannot do that. They think
we were
no,
just
no,
friends.
no. If I do that, I'm betraying, and I'm and they realize they've got one shot at life to be happy, and they're going to throw that away by just being in a relationship where things are kind of stale.
Yeah, he moved back to where he was born and raised and he wanted to stay there. I needed to be here where I am now because of family. My mom was not healthy. Her husband was passing away of cancer and I needed to be here to help look after that situation. And we were just at a stalemate. So
yeah, difficult. Now, okay, so obviously we're reaching to the last 15 minutes of our conversation.
Okay.
I want to focus on the future now.
Okay. Do you know something I don't know? Tell me.
Well, I wish I do. I don't, but we can try. We can plan.
All right.
We can plan. Like I'm sure, like for your channel, and I'll display it one more time. And please,
Perfect.
folks, the description of Stacie's mom's channel podcast is in the description. Please join now. You're gonna miss out on so many stories.
Oh, we're fun.
I'll display it one more time, and I want you to tell me about what are your plans for this channel. What do you want to do? What is that you want to achieve from this point on? What kind of contribution you want to do while having fun, chatting to people of all sorts, and and sharing stories and understanding new things, because I'm sure your podcast is going to evolve into all sort of things. People coming talk about psychology, how the brain works, how the faith thing works inside the head. All these sort of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, well, we want to, I think a lot of people have heard my story just from being on other people's shows. Um, but they haven't necessarily heard my mom's. We're going to do a mix of us just being us together and diving more into our story and just our life and sharing about that and telling stuff that we have never shared before. So that'll be really interesting. We also are going to have other guests on, um, and just I don't know, like someone in the content creator sphere. He said that there hasn't been a mother-daughter deconstruction podcast, so this
Mhm.
is a brand new concept that has not come out yet, and
It's going to
we had no
evolve
idea.
as we evolve.
Yeah, and so he's like, this has just never happened before, and this is incredible. And we were like, huh, okay, we didn't realize that. It was just sort of an idea, and we're super close, and um why not do something together? And so there's one thing that we are going I wanted to say in case anyone, well, I mean, people are going to see this, but in case anyone in our life sees this interview, a lot of people think that we tend to do things just because the other person does something. And we we didn't deconstruct or deconvert just because, like, I didn't deconvert because my mom deconverted and vice versa. So just wanted to make that clear. They think that we kind of just do something because we just follow each other around and I'm like a little duckling or whatever. But this is completely separate and isolated. But um yeah, but I do want to have we want to have just a lot of different people on, and trying to get other stories like ours on who have deconverted together that happen to be family members. So if someone has who is watching this, if you're someone who has deconverted with a family member, whether it was like a brother or a sister or a parent or a spouse, a cousin, even a friend, and you want to talk about how that went, those are the kinds of stories that we do want to share, because let's just make it known that you can deconvert with or deconstruct with someone in your family. And hey, look, you can come out on the other end and still be close family members. So
Mhm.
that is
I've
something
just
that we
I've
do.
just done something lifelong. I'm a converter. You guys made me believe today. So what I've done is this is my channel, and I
Mhm.
have added you as a favorite channel of mine, and uh,
Oh,
next
Aw,
to.
thank
I'm
you.
very
oh my
selective usually.
gosh.
You can see only a few, and I need to put things
Wow.
very soon. But you are officially and one of my favorite
Oh
channels.
my goodness.
Aw.
That is, you are so sweet.
So
No,
Look
really
at
quick,
those ones.
and I'm not
really
being kind.
quick.
I think you guys are going to add a lot of value. This
Oh
is a
my
different
gosh.
story. This is the social aspect. I mean, people talk about philosophy and science and the cosmological argument for the existence of God and all these intelligent things. And the one thing that they don't talk about much is the repercussions and the actual effect on people's life on the back of belief.
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
important. We don't live in quantum mechanical world where
No,
the wave is the electron is both wave and particle at the same time, and only the observer effect and the collapse of the wave function. All that sort of stuff will go over people's head. They just want to say, "Can I just be happy?"
Yeah.
yes. Can we just be
Yeah.
happy?
I I
Oh my
I
God.
agree, because I mean, I watch a lot of those things because I find them interesting and I'm always trying to learn more and I want to learn more. Um, it's amazing that I can learn more now. I don't have to just read the Bible and have everything fit into that. But yeah, a lot of it does it's so heady,
Heavy.
and it doesn't
Yeah.
always stick. I enjoy learning about it and hearing it, but I'm just like, oh my goodness, is it wow.
I'm
So
a geek when it comes to that sort of thing. That's the sort of things I'm focusing on. But like,
yeah,
I don't believe in free will. I don't believe in free
yeah,
will. My
yeah.
wife is
That's
going
an
to come
amazing.
in 15 minutes and will ask me, "What would you like to have for lunch today?" And I will go into the illusion of choosing. We live
Right.
life. We like we don't live life like that. We live life
Yeah,
going through the motions of feeling pain or feeling happiness, and it's not always logical. Life isn't
yeah,
logical, and
No.
we have to embrace that bit. Of course, the science is there, so we can anchor our position. But when we are off guard and we're not thinking intentionally about things, we're just cruising, and our instincts are sort of leading us. So we gotta have
Absolutely.
sound instincts. So when we go on autopilot, at least we can still make reasonable decisions.
Exactly.
hmm yeah.
Oh, well, thank you
Wow.
so much. Thank you for having us. This has just been
Oh, Anna,
amazing.
I mean, this today is obviously just about your story, but next time I'm going to be inviting you. I'm probably going to delve a little bit deeper into some of the scripture and look at some of the stuff that made you look,
Yeah.
oh, that doesn't sound right. Like
Yeah.
uh, Elijah
Oh yeah.
being tormented by few kids about how bold he was,
Bold he was.
Oh, absolutely.
and then the she bear came and tore the kids apart.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, for
or how about
sure.
Noah's
There's
Ark,
so
Stace?
Oh,
Oh,
Noah's
I
Ark.
know. Oh, yeah, I didn't even, like, touch on that,
No,
but yeah,
no.
there's so much where when you finally have the courage to start really doubting the Bible, because I mean, I thought it was infallible, I believed it was infallible, not just thought it, and then
Yeah.
when I realized, "Oh, this is not infallible, this is kind of a lie, if there's one lie in here, then I think there's more than just one, and if God can lie, then he's not
Well,
perfect,
I'm
so."
gonna have a conversation very soon, in the very first week of June. You might guys might be interested in. I'll have Michael Shermer, the psychologist,
Oh,
famous
okay.
psychologist, and I'll have Dan Barker, and we're going
Oh,
to trace. And I'm trying to get another psychologist because we are going to trace consciousness. How did consciousness
Okay.
emerge in humanity, in the brain, and the source of morality? Is it true that religion is a source of morality, or we have evidence of morality have evolved way before that? So this is
Wow.
going to be
Oh,
a
wow.
panel that we're going to be discussing that sort of thing. So hopefully you can watch this and
Yeah,
we can
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
definitely. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
This is
Wow.
fantastic, guys. Would you like to
Oh,
say anything else before we end up?
yes, I just wanna say thank you so much for having us. If you're watching, please subscribe. We are
yes.
like my mom said, I mean, we're brand new, but I feel like a year from now, we're gonna look back and just be like, "Wow,
We
look
had
at."
no idea what we were doing. Thank you for coming along for the ride. And
Yeah.
we just, yeah, we just
Yeah.
want to, we really, our heart is to just help and bring people along. And we want to
Mhm.
just be there. Like Stacy said, we've always been the family that my kitchen was full of people who just needed someone. And we've always just wanted to love on others. And that had nothing to do with our Christianity. It just had to do with our heart.
No. Yeah.
So
Well,
So
the key
that's our
word
desire.
the key word in today's conversation is the kitchen. I think the kitchen seems to
That's
Yeah.
talk
that's
Well,
about
so
this.
true.
I spend my life in the kitchen. I cook and I
Yeah.
bake and I'm
Yeah.
yeah.
It's the way
That's
homes are designed these days. I think back in the day, old homes have a room that's kitchen, it's isolated. Now the kitchen is almost like the centerpiece of most homes, and this is where everybody sort of is around. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
My wife and
Yeah.
I always around the kitchen,
Yep.
Yep.
benched up,
That's us.
talking, reading invoices and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it seems to be, and food.
Yeah.
That's why rituals. The Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
the Last Supper, that
Yeah.
ritual of the
Yeah.
blood of Jesus and the bread.
All
It
around.
had to be around a table where people are eating.
Mhm.
There is a connection between food and human rituals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much. This has just been
Yeah.
amazing and an
Thank you so much.
honor.
Well, I'm
Thank you.
honored too.
And
Oh, thank you.
I love getting to meet new people. Just when I think I've met everyone I thought I could meet, here we are meeting
Yeah.
someone else, and you're
Yeah.
just so fantastic, and it's awesome. And
You're speaking
if
to
I
an
could just
Egyptian,
oh,
Irish, and down under. Like, so, I mean, what would the
Amazing.
so
likelihood
many
of
things.
meeting
Seriously.
in if you were still in that church? It would be probably
I know.
zero chance.
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
100% or 100% zero. Yes. um, And just one more thing before we go. I just wanted to just mention that on this Wednesday night on the line, I'm going to be on with Matt Dillahunty.
Oh, that's
So
wonderful.
that's May 31st. So if anyone wants to see, pop on over to the line. And they're
Yes.
actually the ones who have really given us that
push.
kickstart into getting this chat and this push. And they've been a huge motivation and
Just believing in
just,
us and
Yeah.
yeah.
I
So
like
yeah.
this.
just,
This is a fantastic sense of community. All these young channels,
mhm.
you know,
Right?
you get a lot of. There's a lot of competition. You know, sometimes you get that competition where people wanting to make sure that they are the best or the bigger. But I don't sense that like you were with Myth Vision, Derek, Jenny,
Oh,
Dave. Everybody is having
they're
fun
so
with this. We
kind.
want as many
I
voices as
know.
we can to have.
It's true because we
They're
all
so
have
kind.
something that yeah, and like you have something you want to share. And like I messaged Derek about like, hey, would do you think you'd want to come on? And I'm like, it's just a little itty bitty channel. And he's like, absolutely. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, thank you, Derek. Like
Yeah.
they're all just so encouraging. And then David is just like, if there's anything I can help with, let me know. I'm just like, I love, love, love just how supportive everyone is. And we all want each other to
To
succeed. And
succeed.
yes, like and it's just succeed in helping people. It's not
Yep.
just, it's just, let's reach as many as we can and
Yep.
just know that they're not alone. So that's how I feel at least. So
Yep.
Well, today you've got yourself another
yeah.
unconditional supporter. So
Oh,
if anything
Aw.
I can do, I'll do.
thank
Thank
you. We are so honored.
Oh,
Seriously.
so
Thank you
yeah.
so much. This has
Thank you
just
so
been
Yeah.
much, Dee and
amazing.
Stacie. Thank you so
Oh
much.
my
Thank
gosh.
you.
It's been a long time since I've
Oh,
had a Friday night. So much fun. What
Oh,
did I miss, Stacie? I don't have the chat
pragmatic
open.
Crystal.
Oh, Crystal. Hi,
she's
Crystal.
unfortunately towards the end of the show we would have liked.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's all right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all right. Thank
I love
you.
her.
But there is another
Oh.
time, folks. This is not going to be the last time I'm going to have Dee and Stacie. We're going to
Oh,
talk about
we're
few
excited.
interesting things in the Bible. Next time we're here, we're going
Okay.
to have a
I better
fun
start
chat.
reading it. I never read it. We didn't
Oh,
even talk about that.
I think we could have a fun show
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
with that.
totally.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think
All right.
it's getting into sort of evening
Okay.
time. Did you guys have dinner yet, or you
Yeah, we
guys
did.
have
We
dinner?
ate
did.
early. It's
You
8:30
ate
p.m.
early.
here. We should make sure the boys
We're
are
good.
sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
fantastic.
All right.
All right. Thanks, folks, and we'll see you in
Thank
2
you.
days' time.
Mwah.
I have a very important conversation with Dave Farina, who had a debate with James Tour, the famous chemist, about the abiogenesis, the origin of life. And I'm going to have Dave Farina next week to talk about the behind the scenes of that debate. It's been watched by half a million people already in the last 4 or 5 days. This is a very important debate about the origin of life.
Amazing.
Abiogenesis. So we're going to have that conversation very soon. Thank you very much, folks, and we wish you all a happy and a peaceful evening or day.
Yes. Bye.